Good luck.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, or good night, whatever it is that you're having. Welcome to Behold This Recap, where we talk about what happened and what probably should have happened.
That's fair. That's 100% fair.
Anyways, this episode is going to be covering, I believe, episodes 28 through 35-ish, around there. I don't think we've actually decided where we're going to end it yet, but I guess we'll just get through it and see. This is going to be a series where we kind of just talk about questions and things that we were thinking about during the entire episodes that we're going through. And this particular episode starts in, I believe, when the party got to Kabora initially and made their way to Mirestone, and then goes all the way through. So I think all of you guys have some questions or thoughts prepared, and I think, Kate, you were first.
Yeah, and my first question is for Lee.
Oh, great.
Ooh.
How stressful was it to have Posey's father literally in the room next door, and Posey being the only one that refused to ever go in there for several days and session?
I gotta be honest, that was probably my favorite thing ever, because for such kind of like a drop, right? For such a thing, right? That wasn't even a build-up. It was just kind of out of nowhere. And me knowing that entire time, that's why I was like, is Posey staying in the room? Is Posey staying in the room? It wasn't stressful per se. It was more just like invigorating, because I was sitting there for 3, 4, 5 episodes like, all right, this is going to happen soon. Eventually it's going to tonight's the night. Okay, tonight's the night. And I don't know. I just thought it was hysterical. And throughout that, there were a bunch of subtle hints that everyone picked up on.
No, looking back, absolutely.
But we totally should have known.
Familiar.
Well,
hey.
Everyone was like, wait, why do you care about a familiar? Oh, he just has a friend. And you all just kind of batted it away. So it was even more so hysterical to me watching that whole thing happen, because you were all right, but none of you believed it. So that's the best part.
But also the parts of like, why does he seem to care? There seems to be some connection with Posey. We need to keep her as far away from this man as possible.
Well, everyone else that's had a connection with you has tried to murder you in your sleep.
Correct. Yes.
Because at that time we were still under the impression that it might be your ex-husband. We didn't really know that it could have been him trying to come back and kill you or hurt you, because we just got rid of Claude, thinking that Claude was after you. So at that point we were all like, maybe we should just protect Posey. And not let him
stay in the room.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was one of our first thoughts when we got there too, was like, let's can we move all of the beds to one room, no windows, locked ourselves down.
It was great, that whole thing. And my favorite part about that, I think, was the fact that after you figured all of it out, like everyone's like getting awkwardly comfortable with that. Posey's dad, like, first thing in the entire campaign that he does for the party is essentially give Posey and her friend drugs. He's a hip dad, so.
I'm not like other dads. I'm a cool dad.
He's like the rock star musician dad that's never around.
It was close, but
almost.
Hey, you got some cool info out of that though, Cayman.
Oh, I know. I still have 3 drugs left.
3 cool drugs.
Oh wait, Posey has Greater Restoration now. Mistakes can be made.
So I don't technically, because Greater Restoration is a 5th level spell, and I do not have 5th level spells.
Can't cast it yet.
That is good to know.
I do. I will be able to cast it.
Just limp along for 3 sessions, being down like 6 stat points.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was a doozy for you.
Well, luckily it was just strength, the stat I don't really use, but I also was like, oh wait, but if that tips below 0, I'm just dead.
Yep. What did it bring you down to?
I think it probably from like 10 to like 7 or 6.
Holy shit.
It was bad.
Drugs,
yeah.
It was enough that I was like, I could probably survive another, but let's not. You can no longer lift your shield. Uh-oh.
You would be able to walk.
Just have to drag you everywhere.
No, I'll just have to wild shape anytime I want to move or do anything.
Yep. I mean, Cayman's the one in the party who's probably taken the least amount of damage overall up until this point. And I don't know whether or not that's because he's never up in the fray, but I feel like he is always up in the fray, just doesn't get hit.
It's because of that sanctuary.
Well, that and
Oh,
Brondune's
I get
always
That's true.
focused. Brondune's
Brondu.
always the focus because he's going crazy on people. So
Punching ghosts and, you know.
No, yeah,
Like
the
me.
ghost hurt me. The ghost hurt me quite a bit, actually. And then the party hurt me when I got possessed by said ghost.
Yeah, I think the party has done more damage to you than the actual bad
Enemies.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what the threats are.
He's become
But it's
the
also
Batman
just
of
like, in
trying
most of
to-
the fights, it's like, alright, well, I could go up there and try and do some damage, or let's just use blindness, confusion, and sanctuary, just completely mess up the fight.
Just hope for the best.
Or just charm him. That worked
Yeah.
too.
Speaking of charming, so what do you guys think about what happened in Milestone? I mean, when you guys initially got there with the Loxodon and the Kenku pals, and eventually conscripted them to get or make you some hats, you guys kind of had to work your way through some interesting interactions with some people, specifically in the brewery.
I'm honestly super suspicious of the Kenkus. And even I don't 100% know why
The
I'm
Kenkus?
suspicious.
Interesting.
Yeah, because there's two separate Kenkus. They're like, everyone's really off in this
the
town, and then
Kenkus.
suddenly there's all these Kenkus here too, just kind of living their best life.
Well, it's kind of weird because, like, to your point, like, they can't really say anything or build their own story. So, like, I don't even know if that Kinku that we met is actually from Pukoma.
Right.
Or it was just the other Loxodon that said, hey, I'm from Pukoma, and the Kinku went back and said Pukoma, so we just all assume that it's from Pukoma.
I mean, also for Kenkus, it's like they can't just choose the words they say, so it might be, well, I can either wait for you to guess every single town and country in the world, or first one, Pukoma. Yep, from there. Yep, sure, why not? You gonna buy
Why not?
something?
Yeah.
You gonna buy
So-
something or not?
Also say all the numbers because I have never heard the numbers
Mhm.
before.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
just keep
don't know how
repeating
that
that.
would have come up.
That's
I've
one
been
of my
loving
biggest
running
challenges.
into more people.
Huh?
Especially more people from Pukoma. Like, this is what, the second person we've run into from Pukoma that Brondune's been able to just geek out with.
Mhm.
I
Well,
I
the
love
first
it.
one, so funny enough, the first one he didn't actually get to talk to because he was invisible.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, the first Loxodon.
Yeah, the first one, and he was the one that was like, "Yeah, I don't really care for the Terrapangians." And was it Posey that had to like grab him and
We
drag
were
him out of
both
the store?
invisible.
Yeah.
Nope,
So
we're
he
done.
didn't fight him.
Yeah, yeah, Kevin was just there like, hi, I'm here to, and then just getting hit in the head with an elephant trunk, and just like,
Hey,
yeah,
hey.
just a twitch. Yeah, okay, you're on speaker. Sure it is.
Yup.
Oh my god. I love that attitude that Brondune has. Whenever he gets excited, he's just like a little kid in a candy shop. It's so good.
That's what Bronduune does. He
I can
gets excited.
always expect what you're gonna do in a certain situation whenever it's
Mhm.
something interesting to you.
Yeah,
It's like,
he's
oh,
gonna
there's
shake
another
down the
monk
shop
here. We
owner.
gotta fight him.
I'm
There
just
can
very
only be
glad
one.
that when we got to Milestone, we were able to make friends with that Loxodon man and not,
Mhm.
be thrown in jail immediately.
Well, yeah, because that was a real possibility. Because
we didn't have any papers.
Yeah, no papers. So I
We
was
had
like, oh,
nothing.
whoops.
Yeah, I was left alone to make charisma checks, and that went poorly,
Yep.
but apparently not poorly enough that they just arrested me.
Yup.
It ended up being fine.
It's like, I'm a druid from the woods. What woods? Those woods. Oh, you mean the canonically dead woods? Yeah!
Aw.
Those
Sure,
woods.
why not?
Makes sense to me.
I mean, you guys kind of worked your way through that. I think everyone did really well except for Kaven.
I just dipped.
With my bonus of 0.
Yeah.
My excuse was I'm a child, I don't have papers, so I just left and started wandering
This
the
is just
city.
my adopted child. You don't need to
Mhm.
question
That
him.
reminds
Just
me of
ask him all the
Scanlan's
questions.
thing. I'm just a little man. Ignore me. I need an adult.
All right, how about next question? Let's go, Brandon.
Sure. I mean, to kind of get off that topic, I think we were just talking about it. Rav being the a young child, how are you feeling about being free and in the world and investigating a brewery and out drinking and all these crazy things?
Doing all these adult activities.
Right?
Well, I mean, I touched on this a little bit before when we did our last recap. Rav is nothing new to this. He's been wandering around for a while by himself with maybe with other groups, maybe not. Who knows? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I
not
know.
like anything new, but the whole K-Bora thing is definitely new.
Yeah.
You know, like he had said in game, being able to tap a whole nother continent is kind of the main draw to this, is being able to get any information I can while I'm here. I'm not really hyped about traveling. You know, he's been doing it for so long at this point where it doesn't really faze him.
Because
So
I don't think we really even know what he's really looking for. I don't think anybody's like sat down and said, "Hey, what is it you're
Nope.
looking for?" and anything.
Not
Like
He
that.
won't
really.
tell us.
Yeah, that and you
Well,
won't
because
tell
no one's
us.
asked.
You just know you're looking
Do-
for other tieflings, and there were
Yeah.
other tieflings, and
Do you
really
even know
nothing
you're looking
of
for your
interest.
brother?
I don't know. I think I've brought it up a point here and there. But I think really all that I've said in game is that I'm looking for family and the slave trade.
Yeah, 'cause I
You
think Posey asked
definitely-
what your goals were, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that kind of came up, but we didn't really dive too deep into it.
Rav's just
Yeah.
gonna buy himself a family from the slave trade.
You're my family now. Hello,
You brought it up
Mom
before,
Rav.
so you guys
Can we just work in the
understand
field instead?
the brother situation, I guess. You don't have the whole picture of it, but you at least have an
Right.
idea.
Yeah, to a point.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that, I think, is still kind of voided. Like, I don't think we've even spoken about anything before the split with Forrest or with the Wardens or anything like that.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, to be fair, the story up until this point has pretty much been revolving around Cayman and Posey.
yeah.
You know, so it hasn't really had much time to develop, you know, your story and Brondune's story. You know, the first 30 episodes have been pretty much just the other two.
So
So
be
I
it.
mean, Cayman has tried several times to run away from his story, but it keeps popping up, even on other continents, which is real distressing.
that's what happens when you hand me a blank piece of paper, you asshat.
I did the
What?
same thing, but
What? It's fun to actually have to investigate something instead of just I know what it is and know where I have to go.
Also, Brandon, you may have done the same thing, but I can't do two at a time, man. I gotta
yeah,
break
you gotta
that up.
pace them out.
Yeah, it's gotta be
Absolutely.
paced. All right, pacing. It's the number one thing with DMs. You gotta be good at it.
Mhm. That's it. You can't, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You can't just go, "Here's everybody all at once," right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hooray.
I mean, I'm excited that we got to meet Posey's dad, and
I'm excited that we got to meet Posey's
Yeah,
dad. I didn't
no.
think that was going to come into play at all.
Posey's family later on. But yeah.
Ugh.
In very short succession, might I add.
Mhm.
So on that note, with how Ravul's feeling with the whole traveling thing, how's the rest of the party feeling with the travel, and especially traveling with a young boy that doesn't really seem to understand or know what's going on right now?
I think Brondune is in the same boat. I mean, that's what he was there to do, was travel, right? He didn't
Yeah.
really have a purpose, so he was happy to travel. I thought it was good when we got to Mirestone, we had to pretend to be brothers, because I think that's how Brondune sees Rav, right?
Aw.
It's just kind of like, hey, you're my brother, so whatever's going on, we'll do it.
Yeah.
He kind of sees Posey as the mom figure, but not
That's
as like
fair.
authoritative as like a mom figure.
I
if
have
you
no
would,
authority with my children.
Yep, exactly. And I think Cayman's either like he's kind of like just another brother. They're all just kind of like all friends hanging out.
The weird uncle.
Yeah. Well, he's like his drinking buddy, right? So it's kind of like, hey, let's go get drunk, let's do drugs, and see what happens. He's the fuck around and find out buddy.
Oh my god.
What could go wrong? We have diamonds, right? Yeah,
Yep.
what could go
All
wrong?
right, it's fine.
We get,
Mom's here. It's fine.
Mom's here. Mom's got
we got
potions.
Posey
Mom
on
can
speed
fix it.
dial, we're good.
Speed dial. Actually, that brings us into a good point. You don't have Posey on speed dial. You don't have
No.
anybody on speed dial because
Well,
We're gonna
No
figure it
one-
out.
in
I got
our
everybody
current-
on near dial.
anyone in this party does not have access to this sending.
We'll see
So
about that.
Nope.
at
We
this
gotta
point
figure
in
something out.
time, yeah, you guys have been struggling trying to communicate with
Mhm.
people that you want to communicate with.
Mhm.
we've been
and I-
using like regular mail.
I gotta say, it's a very interesting twist because in other campaigns that I've played in or run, there's always someone who can just magically talk to anybody they want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not having that in this campaign has made such a significant difference in like your decisions.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
actually really cool, but at the same time, I can imagine how frustrating it must be being you guys.
Well, it makes it more exciting when we find someone who can, because we're like, oh, we need to contact like Wolvar. We need to find out all these different people. Because otherwise, you're like, oh, Wolvar's in the front. Well, we'll find out if he's alive or not later on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
we
just
tried
so
to
much
talk
more
to him via
mystery.
bird.
Yeah, but my bird has to take forever to get there. I can't just pop her over there, but...
No, I meant the time when you tried to have the bird talk
Wardens!
to him and just immediately punched.
Well, there's also the benefit of not being constantly communicated with and not having that burden, kind of keeping it a close-knit circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely changes the dynamic, like you said. You know, we're not reaching out for help, like, ever. You know? We don't reach out for information unless we're in person. Like, you know, we're really... It really is tied down the group communication, I think, a little bit without that.
The only time it gets like frustrating is it's like, oh man, we forgot to ask him this thing, and now we're
Yep.
gonna either go back to ask or go find him again. Or
Yeah, because
Right.
basically, unless we super time it right, we probably will never talk to my dad ever again. Like, he's gone.
We'll see.
Well, he has the ability to send messages, so
Also true.
if he thinks about it,
Maybe you'll talk to him again.
yeah.
Be weird if Brondon gets a message from Kieran one day.
He doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Can you tell Posey that?
To eat her
Listen, I'm
vegetables.
still scared. I think she's still mad at me. Can you carry a message?
Just checking in. She didn't tell her mother where I was, right?
Gotta double check.
Definitely not. No. That's...
So I'm gonna double up a little bit then, since I kind of piggybacked off of that last question. Lee, Giram, how did you feel creating Giram now that he's kind of out there? How does his story feel?
Okay.
Knowing that, like, I'm sure you have some kemped up feelings, especially since episode 7 we've known of Giram. But you know.
So I gotta be honest. When I wrote this campaign, right? I got
Not to mention
this is a
all of
PS
the layovers.
This is a PSA for anyone who ever watches this in the future. I wrote this campaign before I watched Critical Role. So
and
okay.
also to clarify, Critical Role was at like episode 60, 50 when he finished writing this, or like when we started.
Yeah,
so
not important. But just I swear to God, I wrote this campaign 2 goddamn years ago. All right, so I already know
timeline's there.
Just cut it.
You can see it.
Anyways, the character himself is. I had fun making him, specifically because it wasn't what Kate expected, I don't think, at all.
Correct.
And I think that's the best part about him, in the sense that, you know, growing up, hearing all these terrible things about this person that you've never met, you've only heard stories about, only to be, you know, told, or only to find out that those stories may have been correct, but at the same time, you know, now you meet this person and those stories, while they may be factually true, they might not be, you know, emotionally the most sound and all these other things. So then
there's
you're
a lot more
struggling.
to it.
Yeah, there's so much more to that story. And I think those are my favorite characters to make, is the multifaceted ones that have reasons beyond reasons where they go or what they do. It's not just as simple as black and white, you know. I think that makes the most interesting character. It's like making a player character backstory, like making a Posey's, Brondoon's, Rav's, Cayman's backstory. It's the same exact setup, only it's just an NPC. Because every single person in this world has a story. I might not have written it yet, but they all have a story, you know? So I had so much fun writing that, and it was only better seeing how flustered Kate got when she actually interacted with. If you go back and watch those episodes, it's so
clear.
satisfying to see the face.
I was 100% not even expecting to ever really come across him, except for maybe like when we find, because I had a feeling we would probably come across my family at some point and just being like, oh yeah, he's like this guy, he lives over there in the woods, or like, yep, he's dead, or something like that. I didn't think that I would actually not only come across him, but that he would be kind of a pivotal member of the NPCs that we need to be able to keep in contact with.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I gotta be honest too. I played with a bunch of different ideas with him. There were multiple different facets where I could have dropped him in, and honestly, I didn't really decide what kind of character he was going to be until probably about 15 episodes into the actual campaign, because I just didn't know when was a good time to drop him, and it could have happened a lot sooner or a lot later than it did. But I'm glad, with how it's worked out, because we're kind of on Posey's first story arc right now, with like a little bit of Cayman sprinkled in there, and just kind of figuring out some more info. So it was hard to figure out how to run him, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did.
It was
My dad's so
interesting to say the
cool.
least. Not to mention he gave you a cloak of invisibility. That's pretty cool.
Of his
Through
own free
pure
will,
guilt.
Yup.
with no coercion whatsoever. Your father may try to kill me later.
That's the point of D&D, man. Give your players cool items, and then just make your encounters harder. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. How
I
about
want to
you,
move
Rich?
in now, so let's move in first. Rich, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about what happened to Mirestone and what you guys are feeling about that, because that was like your first plot hook of Tabor and Continent, right? Like, you get into Mirestone, figure out something's going wonky, meet this crazy old voodoo lady who's just really sober and just wants to be drunk, and
We found Bitey.
find Bitey,
Found
and then the
Bitey.
doppelgangers. Like, that whole situation in that town was the first thing you came into contact with on Tabor. And how do you guys feel about that? Because you guys kind of just noped out of there instantly.
So, the first thing that Ravul was worried about when everybody was like, the town's weird, everybody's been quiet, shady shit's been going on. The first thing going through my mind wasn't doppelgangers, but like some sort of like silencing or like curse put on the town by the brewery. So immediately I thought, maybe everybody drinking these booze had been like silenced by some sort of super ale. Doppelgangers was not the expectation whatsoever. Not to mention, I think I obliterated 2 of McGallan's family members upstairs.
Fine.
They
But,
survived.
They survived.
It was
Thanks
it
to
was
a
a lot.
revivify spell.
This is literally the very first time that she had ever used it. It was because we just obliterated a family member. Oops.
Because we killed a random old man.
Yeah,
It was
I mean,
it was a lot.
I was in the same mindset, and I think of either it's another Loxanthropy thing, right? Like maybe there's a wolf or like werewolves terrorizing the town. I think that's where Brontoon would have gone as well, to be like, oh, maybe it's just a continuation of what we were already dealing with, just on a different continent. It's a bigger deal than what it was. So
Yeah, and that was definitely a worry going through my mind as well.
Yeah, I was worried that it was kind of like, well, there's a war going on. Time to silence anyone against the war.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if it was something like that, just trying to keep everyone under control, and then it turned out to be doppelgangers, which is significantly worse, because I was real worried. It's like, either we have to kill every single one of these and make sure there are no survivors, or the rest of this campaign is, I think, every single character is a doppelganger seeking revenge.
Yeah,
they still could be.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we only killed one.
Well, yeah, but we don't know. I mean, now that we know doppelgangers exist in the world as a whole,
doppelganger,
right? So anybody and everybody can be a doppelganger now.
Yeah, we're a little bit more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aware of it.
Mm-hmm. And now that we know, like, even if we hurt them or kill them, they don't necessarily turn back.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing, is like, even if we hurt them, we would have no way of knowing until they show themselves as a doppelganger.
Yeah, we could easily be in a situation where it's like, we killed the king. No, but he was a doppelganger. All right, well, that's the king's body, and it's very dead, so the guards are still opening fire. It's going to be real hard to talk our way out of.
Ooh, wow. That would be a plot hook.
Doesn't sound like anything that could happen.
That's why I love doppelgangers, man. They are potentially game breaking because of
Yeah.
that reason where players don't trust anyone anymore.
Yep.
But you guys seem to have forgotten after that episode, so it's totally fine.
Well,
I mean-
we definitely have bigger things to worry about than a couple of doppelgangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it, though. I mean, to your point, we kind of bamfed out of the town pretty quickly, but we haven't really run into anybody else that would be suspicious,
Yeah.
right? Like we went into the woods and we met who we ended up being Elm,
Mhm.
and not. I mean, they're fey in nature, but not really anything important out of them, right? Or threatening, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of lower on the priority list when it comes to evil mastermind wizard trying to assassinate me and then also trying to take over all of these different beacons of these different deities. And yeah, there's a lot of other things that
And then there's
We
the
need to
war.
focus
a
on.
little, the entire war that we have to look for, which is what we're here for in the first place. So yeah, there's a few
Yeah,
things
right.
a little higher on the list.
I'm still
But-
worried about the necromancy book in the bag
Mhm.
that we can't decipher.
Well, I did learn a little bit more about that with Marigold. But not too much. I mean, I know it
I thought that was
revolves
the
around
crystal,
Shadow
not the
Weave.
necromancy book.
No, I had spoken to her about the book. She said that it
Alright.
revolves around the Shadow Weave as well.
Right.
Okay.
hmm
So,
And I feel like a lot of I think now we can go back and focus on the doppelgangers a little bit
Mhm.
more now that we know that a lot of our ties are specifically going to be in the Arcane Sanctum.
yeah.
And now that we know your family's safe, because that was the other big worry.
That was the other thing, was that we
Right.
didn't know if my family was alive.
and now that we've
And
confirmed
some of them
that-
almost were.
right.
Correct.
You know.
Well,
So-
and our worst kind of theory was correct, where Velen did know about your family, knows where your family
Mhm.
is. We just
He
found
has
that
been
out
there apparently.
2 nights ago.
Mhm.
Like, so, I mean,
Yep. Yep,
the rush may have been very warranted, you know?
Mhm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
back in Mirestone, I'm happy to be at Boulder's Keep. I'll say that it's gonna be interesting to go in there because I know that it's a
Once
bigger
we actually get
resource
there.
to tap. Yeah,
Once we fight our way down the mountain, because Lord knows it's in a mountain, but you know,
Nothing's in the mountain. It's fine. It's a small mountain.
I mean,
there's no
we
war
don't-
in the mountain.
We have the ability to fly.
There's no rocks in the mountain.
Oh, actually, shit.
there's no tunnel through Boulder Keep.
Well, Boulder Keep's gonna be its own set of problems because they're hunting magic users. And
Yeah.
3 out of 4 of us are
Mhm.
magic users.
Yep.
And yeah, which will be good to remind us in games so Brondune takes his necklace off and doesn't go around using magic from the necklace.
Yeah.
I like
But-
the idea that everyone gets arrested. It's like, all right, so we need Brondoon to be our lawyer to figure out our case to get us
Yes.
out. Okay,
look at
Brondoon,
this
what was your
action.
argument? I use stunning strike on the judge. We bolt. All right.
Punch the
Objection,
guard.
Your Honor. Hearsay.
Exhibit A,
Oh my
Exhibit
God.
B.
Yeah, I have 2
Wait, I
witnesses.
kind of want this to happen though.
I'd like to call witness A and witness B to the stand, please.
Oh man.
I mean, as awful as that would turn out, I would pay good money to watch that court scene.
Yeah, that'd be
Brondoon,
interesting.
attorney at law.
Just
hard
all of us
part would
watching
be-
on in horror, unable to do anything.
The hard part would be me having to disconnect my actual lawyer brain from it and then having be Brondoon in there, remembering that he's got the intelligence of -1.
Oh my
Oh.
god.
Oh
We're
man.
not overplaying.
Uh,
it,
Filibusters. Objection.
Object.
Objection.
Object. What? Object. You mean objection? Yeah, that.
Now, Your Honor, please don't take this situation for granted.
Granted, you take it for granted.
Granted. I even said it reversed. God, Jesus. But back
Brondoon
on
does
Mirestone.
suplex the judge.
Ravul is definitely worried about the dinner.
I am
Oh yeah.
pumped.
Mm,
I am
I'm
here for a
pumped,
good gala. I am
but I
here
am
for it.
very, very worried because
Mhm.
we know an army of doppelgangers is
mhm,
going there to specifically try to infiltrate the king at his gala.
mhm.
Yep.
So something's gonna pop off while we're there.
Yes.
Maybe before we get what we want. You know, and that's my biggest worry right now is I still don't trust the doppelgangers. I don't trust the city. I don't trust the anything here, and I think this gala is gonna be a shit show.
Yeah,
that
Posey
does-
specifically thinks that it's going to go horribly wrong because we, as a group, stick out a lot.
Like
and
sore
don't
thumbs.
we're not necessarily the most subtle of groups.
No.
But Kate, as myself, I am super looking forward to this. And the moment the word gala was used, I'm like, yes, I am here. We're going to go clothes shopping. It's going to be great. We're going to be fancy.
Is it bad that what ran through my head is Cayman's gonna accidentally offend a noble and just gonna have to stealthily polymorph him into a slug and just yeet him off a balcony? Well, that's social situations handled.
No more noble.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think that's what makes the doppelganger and the whole thing interesting, right? Is that we were like, oh yeah, there's a gala. Okay, cool. Wait, there's doppelgangers involved, so
Yeah,
we
we're
don't
gonna
have
need
a way
system,
to
like a secret
detect.
handshake or
Yeah.
something.
So, that I think that's, to your point, going to be what's cool about it, right? And that, like, who can we trust when we get there and all this other stuff.
Literally no one. We can
Wow.
trust no one.
Yeah.
Which also
Well-
brings up the question: when is the gala in game time from where we're currently at?
It's like a month and a half because we
Yeah.
teleported.
Oh, we have time. We can try and see if the king's actually
about
a dick.
that?
Maybe we want him to be a doppelganger instead.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's no way to tell.
You guys are about a month away.
Yeah,
There you go.
from all of our travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
timekeeping in the game is traveling
Bitch.
takes a long time. The fact that you guys got there or teleported there by Marigold saved
Mhm.
you a lot of time because realistically it would have taken you 2 or 3 weeks to actually get there, assuming nothing happened on the way.
Mhm.
So realistically, having you guys accidentally port right there is a interesting turn of events.
It's a
Well-
good thing. But to kind of bring it back, right? So when we went from Mirestone, the whole lake thing, and the first time we visited there, I'm interested to see what happens with Elm and if she's like a deity or something along those lines.
She's got to be somebody.
Right? So, as we went, Mirestone was really cool, a lot of fun, right? Met some cool people. We bounced really quickly out of there and then went right to the lake. Or we traveled a bit and then ended up at the lake. And I
Mhm.
think that was our next big thing. And where we met who we ended up calling Elm, but
Mhm.
was the fey creature that was popping in and out.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see, especially going back and looking at the history that we learned from Posey's family, to say, hey, Posey, do you think anything that we learned from your family and the history, do you think Elm could be any of those other deities like the Green Goddess or the Goddess of the Forest or anything like that?
I don't think she's a deity. I think that she might be either like another like devout worshiper of one of them or is placed there as a protector. She's just doing a garbage job at it. So I don't really know what she's doing there, or if there's something completely different, but it seems like she probably has some sort of connection, but I don't think she herself is.
I mean, it seems like that place was fine up until Velen, world-shattering mage showed up. Before that, I think it's like, all right, well, it's fair. You were here to deal with like poachers, and this man's creating corruption monsters out of slime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
These are
Yeah.
different levels of problem.
Well, because it also seems like whatever he did infected the, I guess, temple underneath the lake.
Yeah.
That, again, we had to learn about later on because we didn't explore all the way down first. But so it's possible that maybe she couldn't either get into the temple or didn't know about the temple and was causing this corruption throughout the lake as
Mhm.
it was. So
Yeah, I mean, she did try to warn us about them.
yeah, I mean, but at that time she had seen them come out. Then we ended up getting attacked by them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I definitely think Elm is some sort of fey, like dryad or protector.
Mhm.
You know, specifically
think
like
I identified
dryad
her.
because she was a fey entity.
mhm.
Yeah, but didn't I actually get a name of what kind of creature she was?
I don't.
She was
Yeah,
like
Um,
something. She was like a
did.
Dryad, but higher
I,
up in good nature.
I don't
Yeah.
remember off the top of my head. Let me pull it
Well,
up. But yes, you
It's also-
nonetheless,
It's
I
also a
think-
question I had for like Rav, if you would, right? Thinking of calling, Akasha more or less a fake god through all of this. And I would assume that Rav does not believe that, Elm, if we'll call her that, to be a god of any sort.
No,
or
I
some
don't
sort
think
of
Elm is anywhere
celestial
near a
being.
god. I definitely 100% know that she's Fae just from her abilities of being able to, poof around and do that. So there's no confusion there. But no, I definitely think she's some sort of dryad, some sort of protector of the forest that was there before,
But,
Velen showed up.
She's also a Fae creature. She could just be masquerading as that kind of creature.
Exactly.
You recognized her as an Eladrin. That's what it was. I couldn't remember the name.
But on the fake god note, we had no proof of Posy's god being real until we showed up in the Chili Wind thickets. Like,
Other than her abilities.
I have
Well,
abilities and I have no god.
Yeah, Posy was definitely, there was like one session where she was like, no, she has to be real, right?
Yeah, there
Even
was
though
like one
logically
whole
all of this
session.
makes sense. Why? No one has ever, I've never seen it. They just told me that that's what's supposed to happen, but I've never seen any proof. But it's got to be real, right? Faith is right.
So, but
then it was
here's the
fine.
thing. Ravul still doesn't believe Akasha is Akasha. I 100% believe Posy has a god and a patron of, gifting her powers and, has a deity. I do not
just
believe
don't think it's a
Akasha
unicorn?
is real. No, I don't. I think Akasha was probably just the guardian or the avatar to protect that place. And your family just devoted the patronage to Akasha and kind of forgot whatever was above to the wayside, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That 100% could be
Yeah.
true. Who knows?
I think you have a bigger god and don't even realize is what I'm trying to get at here.
No, absolutely. And there was definitely a moment where, like, oh my God, did my entire family either lie to me about the patron that I'm supposed to be worshiping, or did they just, are we all completely blind and unaware that there's someone totally different from who we've been worshiping for literal generations?
Or I could just be totally wrong.
Yeah. I mean, because it kind of builds into, like, your mom was telling you all these things about your dad, and then you meet him, and it's
my
like,
whole life is
right. So it's like my whole life is a lie or a misunderstanding of some sort. So maybe the Akasha is, the same sort of exaggeration of you were told something as a child, so you would believe it and then fall into it, and so that's where that whole, I thought was a great dynamic of like, wait, is Santa Claus not real?
I think it's even better with the fact that every question she asked her family, they just straight up said no. Like, they just told her no, figure it out. And I think that made her question it even more so, which was super fun.
See, but on the other hand, that made Ravul believe more that the god was real. Because he's he knows how holy people work and he knows how crazy devout people are. And he sees these people being super cryptic and super, underlying messages about this. And it's like, all right, yeah, they've probably got something going on here. And then
she's never had to question it until literally this first time with Rav being there and being like, are you sure though? And then so now she's asking the questions that she never did as a kid because she just blindly was like, yeah, there's a unicorn that gives me powers. She brought me back to life. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Oh man. That was
it was interesting.
Well, the thing that Richard's been wondering about, because Cayman doesn't know about this, but Rav, you detected an enchantment magic room, an enchantment magic item.
Yep.
In the upstairs room in Posy's house.
It did.
So, fun fact: charm person, dominate person, those are all enchantment type spells.
Ooh.
So you happen to have your dream about Akasha in proximity to this item.
Oh no!
That is a very good point.
Oh my god!
But I also forgot about it, so I never came and didn't know about it, so we couldn't have looked into it.
It's probably better that we didn't know about it. Otherwise, we'd still be there, and we would be ripping that house apart from top to bottom and interrogating everybody.
Fade to black, cut back. The entire family is tied up to trees. Walking back and forth, like hands behind their back. So, what do we have here?
That'd
Tell
be
me
fun.
something that only my real mother would know.
Prove you're not a doppelganger.
Oh my god. I mean, to be
Well-
fair, Rav4 versus Posey's fam, that'd be a fun fight to watch.
It would be a mirror match.
I feel like we're
we'd
this
have a
close to
mirror
actually
match.
having that happen.
I really would. I'd be casting a confusion spell. And it's like, if this doesn't work, I am out of ideas.
So here's the thing. Now that Marigold has taught Rav the teleportation circle, Rav is, what are we? We're level 9, right? So 8th level sorcerer, 1 level wizard. I can't learn 5th level spells, but I can cast them, so I can teleport us now.
Awesome.
So if that were to pop off, I'd just be like, I'm fucking out of here.
Let's go.
Like, I figured this out. Like,
Wait, so do you have teleport or do you have magic
teleportation
circle?
circle.
Okay, so you need to draw the circle. You need the chalk.
But I am a
have a
sorcerer.
destination.
Guess who can heighten their speed from a minute to an action?
Ooh.
Sorcerer can.
You can draw an
Nice.
entire circle in 6 seconds. That's
Apparently.
impressive.
I think it's more of just
Okay.
taking the chalk and be like.
Well,
Just
so
like
talking about
the chalk breaks off, you telekinetically just move them around.
yeah, exactly.
The only thing is I
Um,
need to steal all the gems from Posey. Or from the bag.
You can certainly try.
Well, the gems, not the fancy gems.
I got you. Yeah, you can have them. That's fine.
Oh,
But talking about Posey's family, how was it for Rev to be around a whole like family and
Family?
spending time there? Yeah.
You know that I've thought about that a lot last session, and it won't come up for a while. But when I was in my room doing my thing, a lot of that writing that Rav was doing had to do with that specifically.
Aw.
About family. He's melancholy, in the best way to put it. You know what I mean? There's no other way.
Boy, it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, missing his family and he's with somebody else's family, you know, and you find somebody else's family. It's just melancholy. For
Special guest.
Mia!
yes, I don't know if you can actually see on the video, but hello, Pop. Mwah.
So it's an interesting situation, you know. He definitely likes the family dynamic that's going on there, and he picked it up a lot. Like he enjoyed spending time with Marigold and your family, though. You know, as weird as the situation was, but you know, it is what it is.
Brondoon had a blast though, not just for the fight, but you know his whole thing is like for Loxodons, and it's kind of built into the whole thing is like they, you know, respect women in a whole different light. So it's a family of strong women, you
That's
know,
fair.
and it's kind of that whole idea of really wasn't a man in sight. I don't think we passed a man in the entire village, right? Like it was an entire like.
Not a man in sight.
Not a man in sight.
Wait, is Posey's family Amazons?
That's exactly where I
A
was going,
little
right?
bit.
It's a,
There are
basically an
very-
Amazon village.
Keep rolling. Me, I spill water. I'll be right back.
Okay, we're good.
They're good.
But there are specific, well, not specifically, but there are very few.
Mia.
There are very few men in her family, but also extremely few. I think only 1 or 2 in the entire generations of her family that have worshipped Akasha. I think only 2 in the 4 generations that that has gone through this family, or more possibly. But yeah, they either never worked out or they died.
Well, I mean,
That-
it sort of makes sense.
yikes.
It's like, okay, I'm married to this person. Okay, they randomly have to go do vague god's work and potentially die months at a time.
Hmm
All right, that's gonna be a stressful experience. I'm a farmer.
Yeah, so a lot of them are actually like unmarried, and so that's why she's the only child of this generation, is because they either just don't have time for it, or the husband eventually was like, I literally don't see you ever. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's a
mean,
very
that's-
interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, and that's kind of like pretty much what Brondoon was used to. Of like, there's not necessarily always a family structure in you know Pukoma or Loxodon culture. Now that Lee's gone, I'm going to give you all the Loxodon secrets.
Yep.
So the idea of you know not necessarily women giving birth and then moving on, right? But it's they're highly respected and not necessarily worshipped, but thought of in a higher manner. And if you
Yeah.
can survive childbirth, or
By birthing a whole elephant.
birthing an elephant, then you're considered a very strong individual who then either goes into military or into some sort of high-ranking official or job in this society. So seeing that kind of family dynamic of strong individual ladies was a big deal for Brondoon. And then he got to fight one, so that was even more fun. So and that was, first of all, I think that was the best teamwork we've had. Just
buffing you
buffing Brondoon, because there's no way he would have even come close to what the fight was without haste, especially getting all those extra attacks and all those extra bonuses. So, but now that we have that, we know that we can do that. Anytime Brondoon goes in, he's gonna be like, "Yo, hit me with that haste."
Time to go to the fighting pits.
I got a couple more things up the pocket. That was the idea. Originally, when we first started, I had the enlarge and reduce, if you remember. But I ended up dropping that because it just didn't have a big enough benefit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then
enlarge first, it's not great in 5e. It's like one extra d4 damage, and that's it.
Yeah.
For a concentration spell, confusion's a concentration spell.
Yeah.
It's like, you got fly, you got plenty of really good ones.
So on the family note, Rich, what is K-Man feeling? Because Ravul's kind of melancholy. He's happy that everybody's with their family. He's enjoying the family dynamic, but still feels shitty about it. What about K-Man that doesn't even have a memory of a family or anything like that? Like what's going on there?
The closest thing K-Man had to family was Shirohei, and then it turns out Shirohei may or may not be hiding things about me from my past. But it's been kind of weird for him because, like, all right, well, I guess this is what a family is. Wonder if I have one. I'll figure that out later. We have more pressing issues. He was more worried at that point about, like, so there were corruption monsters in that Fey Lake. Really feel like we should address this.
Well, that was going to be my question. It was kind of along the same lines of, like, how is K-Man feeling about learning probably a lot more about, one, the corruption, but also your past when we do eventually go to the Arcane Sanctum, because they're specifically researching it. And, like, the more that you're learning about it, do you want to know everything?
I mean, I think for a while Kim was kind of like, you know what, maybe we just don't open this book. Maybe we don't look into it. Maybe it'll be fine. And then it's like, all right, well, corruption, the thing that sort of killed me, seems to be popping up all over the area. This might be a level of problem I can't ignore. In my past might be important to figuring out what happened.
I mean, we still don't even know what happened, really, right? To say either it's taking people over, is it some sort of doppelganger or something along those lines after what happened to your aunt?
Yeah.
So K-Man might even be a clone. How's K-Man feeling about something like that he might be just a corruption clone?
He tries not to think about it.
Well, yeah, not to mention that's something that was back in my mind too, was Experiment 4, the dwarf. So the one that was successful still. So I mean, do you think about that at all, of still possibly being that you were the experiment or that you were rebirthed? Like what do you think actually happened?
I'm not really sure. I think that I was reincarnated, but now I don't know. There is a chance that I was just a discard experiment, but if that were the case, I imagine once the memory problems came up, I would have either been put to some task or just eliminated.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was put to a task, killed, then reincarnated. I don't know. I had a dream recently that no one else knows about, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had to walk away from that one.
That was fun to watch from here. Just
I know,
see
just
you
watching,
guys.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Why is his hands moving all over the place?
What does this mean? I've seen it before, but I can only presume.
We were cutting cheese. It was a lovely wine party. Punch was served. Nothing happens.
It's just a really big wheel of cheese. You really had to hack in there.
Yeah. Shaking a bottle of champagne. Getting ready to... Oh man.
That was the first bit of information I essentially whispered in the campaign too. So
second bit.
Well, we've had a bit of messages.
Well, there was the drug bit, then there was this bit.
Yeah, we've had a bit of messaging in between, but that was the first real whisper where like we've had to fuck
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Take off headphones and leave the room.
The
kind of
last
thing.
episode was 35, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
36
Technically, the last one that went live was
37.
37,
Oh,
but
shit,
the one that we're
okay.
going up to is 36, which was
Yeah.
right before we teleported out.
Even though we've already. talked
Okay,
about
so
that.
everything
we're
that
talking
has
about everything
happened is part of it. Okay.
It's fine. I'm
Well,
sure
Well,
we'll
we're pretty much just going up to where we're at.
Alright.
Yeah.
Because nothing else happened. After 36, we just hung around, did RP, and teleported to Boulder.
Pretty much.
Well, we
Y'all
all
got some
learned
cool
stuff,
things,
which was
though.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
I thought that was really awesome that we all got a thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yep, everybody got a thing.
I got a
Just-
stick.
You
I
got
got
a
stick.
bunch of info.
You got a bunch of info and a stick. Oh, poor K-Man
Yeah, and the
struck himself
parasite.
with lightning twice.
Well,
Killed a spider with
well,
cold lightning.
the parasite or symbiotic entity started talking to me, which I tried to do. It wasn't great.
Yeah,
But I
the whole
found
time
out I
I'm
can
just
hurt it, so that's fun. I'm
The
gonna
whole
need
time I
more of that
was-
holy water.
Thinking you're Venom now, so
Mhm.
you're Eddie Brock.
Kinda.
Congratulations.
Woo!
Good
We
luck.
did it, guys.
To be fair, though, Cayman was the only person who did not really communicate with the other,
Mm,
I guess,
Yeah.
counterpart of Posy's family.
very
And that's
true.
actually an
Yeah.
interesting point to bring up, too, is everyone in your group, with the exception of Posy, has a counterpart in Posy's family.
Yeah,
You know, someone who's got more
sort of.
experience or more
that's
understanding.
kind of what I was talking about earlier. If we had a battle, it would be a mirror match.
Mhm.
It would be like fighting your older selves.
Well, do you have a druid? Was there a druid?
Well, so you're part
Ish?
cleric, and that's who
Oh,
Daisy
gotcha.
is, and I'm
One
part
level of
paladin,
cleric.
which is who
One
my
level of cleric.
yeah, I'm level 2 paladin, and that's
Yeah.
what my mom's a paladin. So
Oh yeah, I never brought up
Yeah.
why I only have one level of cleric. All right, that's not important. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, no, it
It's a
was a
lot.
good time.
So-
we all got stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lee,
Yeah.
how do you feel about the family dynamic? So we all talked about that a bit, and how everybody's character was feeling. Revul being kind of separated, Posy being happy and excited but distraught, Brondude just being family happy, K-Man being confused. How do you feel as a DM, and how do you think the NPCs feel being reunited and then left?
I have a
Very
follow-up
shortly.
once you're done.
Well, first of all, I love her family dynamic. I think it's hysterical. I love
you
the
did such
trope.
a good job with it. It's everything I could have hoped for.
When I got that message from you, I was like, oh my god, that means so much. Yeah, it's a fun trope to play, like the really caring family that's like overprotective, but at the same time, like none of this bullshit kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the entire family, Dahlia, Daisy, Marigold, Chris, all those guys are they're very kind of stuck where they're at, right? They're doing what they're meant to do, and that's how it goes. But at the same time, they also understand Posy's predicament, and this is really the first time that they've heard of a separate predicament from the initial reason why she left. So, in all honesty, they didn't expect her to come back so soon. So in a way, it was nice for them to see her again, but at the same time, they're all kind of like, "Well, what are you doing here? You need to get out of here still."
Yeah.
So I think having her leave a second time in kind of such a short time frame it's almost like reliving something that happened already. But
Yeah.
they already have come to terms with what has happened. So it's more so like, all right, just get out of here, do your thing. You got to do your stuff. We got to do our stuff. Great. And if you ever need us, we're here. You know where to find us. So that's the one thing about her family that's the one thing in the campaign that at this point in time, from your understanding, is stable, right? That's the one thing in here that is not going to change, at least in your mind, in your foreseeable future, right? You can always go back to Posy's family.
Yeah.
Where before that, you guys really didn't have anywhere to just
Yeah.
kind of
Literally
chill
no
out.
place.
You've just been jumping all around.
Aldero's Tavern was our
Mhm.
place.
Pretty much, and then you got kicked out of there because you pretty much killed a dude that was granted an assassin, but still,
Mhm.
Oh
like,
well.
Oh yeah.
Oh well.
So
Shit happens.
so at what point did you realize from Kate's backstory for Posey that she basically remade the party as her family?
I didn't mean to do that.
Because obviously that wasn't planned, right? That wasn't like Kate sat down and said, all right, this person's going to be this person's going to do this. And then went, wait, this person's a fighter. Okay, so that's going to be Brondoon's mirror. This person's a cleric. That's going to be K-Man's mirror. So at what point did you realize that, Lee?
well, when we started this campaign, there was no cleric, there was no paladin. Right?
Also true.
Yep.
Yep.
So, honestly, pretty recent. I'd say probably within the last 8 or so sessions, I've, probably like the first, like 3 before you guys got there or so, I realized that, and I was thinking of how we could make that interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole trope of, age and experience kind of deal. So I saw it as a really cool opportunity, and that's kind of why. That's not. I guess that is why I made Chrissy the way she was, in the sense that she was
Mhm.
really excited to see Brondoon. Because while she is the youngest of Posey's family, she is still older than
Mhm.
all of you. And I think she saw a little bit of excitement and energy in Brondoon. And honestly, I think that right there, that moment was when I decided, all right, this is where these guys can get like some mentors-esque, if
Right.
you will. You know what I mean? Like you and Chrissy, Posey and her mom, and even though it wasn't, something not really thought about because Posey wasn't technically a paladin beforehand, like having the ability to go back to someone who's had that experience before is, I think, awesome. Now you can't message them,
Nope.
but you have that opportunity to do so, right? Having a sorcerer for Rav is going to be insane, considering Rav is literally a 17-year-old boy.
Mhm.
You know, Cayman's the
And
only one
yeah,
who's
that
a
was the other
little-
thing, was that Rav's the youngest, learning from the oldest
Mhm.
from her family. Because
Mhm.
Marigold's like pushing 80,
Mhm.
probably more
Some
than that, depending on
apprentice
how.
shit.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. It's like I never really established Brondoon's age either, so I wonder if it's flipped, right? Like,
Hmm.
Yeah,
How
it
old
could
is
very well
Brondoon?
be.
it's a great question. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it's
No, I
still
had
the matter of
originally-
experience. Like she's probably been fighting actual enemies for
Yeah.
longer than Brondoon has.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because Brondoon was just much more of like a trained. I always imagined him. I'd have to double check the Loxodon or Loxodon.
Locks and
The
throw.
Loxodon, like I was about to say Loxodon.
The
The
Loxicon?
Loxodon, like age range, because really I imagine him being that kind of like mid-20s kind of person that's like either fresh out of college or dropped out of college to go backpack and discover themselves, right? And that's kind of where the
Backpack
whole
across
idea of
Europe.
exactly, and that's kind of the whole thing Brondoon was based off of. So I imagined him somewhat younger.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'll have to figure
Cayman's
that out at one
really.
point when your birthday comes up.
Oh
I learned
man,
from the trees.
that's the difficult part that I have with Cayman is his like mentor of Dorohe is, first of all, he was introduced very, very, very early on in the campaign.
Mhm.
And he's really the only one who doesn't necessarily have a stronger version of himself in your family. I mean, technically Daisy would, but he's only like a level 1 cleric. He's very much more so a druid. So I did struggle with that a little bit because I didn't want to be so, Posey's family is the answer for all of them. But at the same time, I love that idea of learning from, others. And I really, really love the idea of rewarding players for interacting with that kind of role play, stuff. Getting something from all of that, greater restoration, you getting Brondoon, whatever the hell you're deciding to take, and then Rav getting the ability to teleport or learning how to teleport without having to take up a slot or something like that. Those are cool things that you can give you guys are players that aren't magic items or stuff like that. It adds a little bit more flavor to the characters rather than just kind of like here's your cookie cutter, fit it within that.
Mhm.
Cayman was just getting shocked by lightning the whole time, but
From himself, of all things, too. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
So do I have lightning resistance now? That's how it works, right?
No, you just got to talk to
Uh,
the demon inside you.
It's fine. I should name him.
Oh boy. Damon the Demon.
Jesus. But you guys got a lot of information. Actually, you know what? That's a good question to bring up. Is the past 5 sessions have
Yeah.
just been like information, straight information dump for y'all.
Yep.
And by the way, we've had so many sessions with your family. I've started taking on how they speak sometimes, so I just say things like y'all every now and again. But
Yay!
yeah, realistically, while your parents and your family weren't necessarily giving you all the answers, you really were getting a lot of or at least semi-answers to questions you guys have been asking for a long time. Like,
Mhm.
any questions about Akasha, questions about
Yep.
Cayman's whatever the heck he's got going on.
Damon.
Whatever that is.
Yeah,
Nothing to
whatever
worry
that
about.
is.
Cayman's
fine.
Damon the Damon.
There's just been a lot of information that may not even necessarily be answers, but you've learned a lot about just random things that you really have kind of been held back from because you decided to go to Posey's family this early on. How are you guys, thinking about that whole thing? Because with this information dump comes along the fact that there's now like 6 places you could be going, or that you probably should be going.
Yeah.
I don't really think any of them is more important than the other, at least in terms of how you guys would be looking at it. You tell me, what are you guys thinking in that?
Got a lot more pages on the notebook filled up.
Oh boy.
Um,
I mean, it's good because I feel like we always had all these questions and no one had any answers, and we had no idea
Whatsoever.
where to even try to start looking for any of it. So for both Giram and then Posey's family, at least putting thread connectors to different places, specifically to the arcane sanctum and everything, at least allows us to kind of fill in those blanks and then tackle it as we need to. So I think it was super, super great to get all of that information. We just have to process it and figure out what is going to be the most important and how go about doing all that.
yeah,
I
it's
think it
definitely
was-
a process.
I think it was great. And it made Rondu think about things he normally wouldn't think about. Given that last episode, right, where he's talking to Chrissy and she's like, well, I can get powers from a deity. And then he has to talk to Rav about like, well, what does that mean? Like, could I get more powers from a deity? Could that be something that he does? Is that something that, and really think about who he is and just kind of stop being this wandering soul, this, Ronin out there, right? If you would, he's just out there wandering around and maybe there is more out there for him. And seeing the family dynamic of like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. Maybe I should have stuck around, or maybe I can stick around somewhere. Because I think the other big benefit to all of this is, to your point, it's the first time we've actually like landed somewhere and had people to talk to and places to stay, and without worrying about getting attacked, or we don't have to take a watch, getting assassinated in the night, or we have to be the protectors of this place and really doing all these things. So,
or even just be somewhere where we don't have to lie about our identities. It's like, yeah, no, this is who we are. We're Posey's friends. We don't have to pretend we're brothers or just wanderers. Don't mind us, town guard.
Yeah.
Just a dwarf, a half-orc, a loxodon, and tiefling. Nothing to see here.
Inconspicuous.
Yep.
Definitely not an adventuring party.
I don't know these
Certainly not.
people. We just have matching hats.
Yep. Weird, right?
We're a wandering circus.
I also think that the Radiant Heart reveal, I guess, was really big, especially for Posey, but just generally for knowing that, hey, there's other people who are also investigating the same stuff as us. And that's also a place that we can go and try to coordinate and figure out even more information. And maybe they can help us find a specific path, or at least eliminate other things that we don't have to worry about. because we still don't really have a ton of information about like these beacons or anything. I think we're slowly piecing it together a little bit, at least understanding like, okay, whatever they're supposed to be for, Velen seems to be going after them, so we just have to keep going to those places to stop whatever's happening.
Yeah,
I love the idea that we'll run into Velen someday and he'll be like, so you're the ones that have been trying to thwart me. Yes, by the way, what are you doing? Wait, you don't even know what
Can you explain it to us?
It just
Because
seemed
no one else
bad.
can.
It seemed bad. So we've just been
Prologue
sucking
time,
in.
or monologue time.
Monologue.
We will let you monologue. Just please explain it to us. We're lost.
Well, you see, when I was a boy growing up in the tri-state area.
Brad make a bonfire, everyone take a seat, story time.
We all take out our notebooks.
Roast some
Ah,
peanuts over
yes, the
bonfire.
RAV4! How completely unexpected of you!
A tiefling? A tiefling with a hat? RAV4!
Oh, that's great. No more
Oh,
water for
man.
you, Skull.
Well, honestly, I think on that note, that's pretty good. Unless anybody else has any main questions they want to ask.
The only question I had left over was actually directly off of that is, how do you all feel about the Radiant Heart
I don't trust
and
it one
what
bit.
they're doing? 'Cause for some reason, like Posy's all like, you know what, I'm gonna go join the Radiant Heart at some point. Like whenever everything's done, I'll probably join that. But like me specifically, I'm a little suspicious of them.
I don't trust it
know
one
why.
bit.
I don't trust them.
Well, it's also because
secret organizations typically aren't great.
But like my whole
Exactly.
family is a part of it, and I'm still like, I don't know if I like that.
Well, like, because it also seems like that could have been a good reason your parents would have split, right?
Yeah.
Is we have to do something shady, and mom says, no, I don't want to do it. Dad's like, well, I have to because I'm part of the organization.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're going to split. And then finding him the way we did in that underground secret place, being that underground dealer, if you would, right? It doesn't necessarily lead in game to believe that they're a good entity.
Well, not to mention how incredibly secretive and protective Miral and Lalna were about the Radiant Heart. Even the fact that they were working with it just makes it super shady.
Yeah. Like you would think that a organization for good would be like, we are the Radiant Heart. We are here to save all of you. And like,
Exactly.
like Posy growing up had no idea. She was never told about this organization. And you would think that like, oh, that's something that you should be a part of. Join us.
Yeah, Revool's definitely under the mindset that it's some sort of underground cabal, just like the Knights of Respite, just kind of doing their thing, trying to make their benefit. I mean, sure, they might be under the banner of good, but so is the Knights of Respite. So,
Which I also don't
really
trust
knows?
because Vashimi is a part of that, apparently.
Yeah.
I forgot to
I
ask
mean-
my dad about Vashimi and if he knew him, because that would have just...
Fuck that guy.
That would be
Drop
the best.
everything. We're going back to kill Vashimi.
Well,
I
actually,
got it.
you know what? I do want to touch on one thing first before we
Okay.
call it here, and that's literally the last thing you guys experienced in the I guess the fountain area of the temple with Kate or Posy using the staff.
Yes.
What do you
Yeah.
guys
Vision.
when Posy saw that vision? What did your mind go to when you guys think of that?
Two things. Either one, that person is the avatar, right? Or two, that person is supposed to be the avatar, or was supposed to be the avatar and left and gave up. You know what I mean? Something like that. It's definitely they're definitely a connection to the temple, to the beacon, and to whatever the fuck is going on with the avatars and the weave.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I think that the only reason that I thought about this was because I've done it in my own game, where I think that it might be the actual deity that, because of the corruption, lost so much power, got stuck on this plane, especially with the whole war around like the Shattered Coast and everything. And that was like her first spark, and now she has awoken again. Because I've absolutely trapped my own deities on the material plane for people to come across because they don't have enough power to get back to their like pantheon or whatever. But that's the first thing that I thought of was this is actually Eldith who's just hanging out on an island in a hut.
Well, I
somewhere.
mean, we know the
we have to go find
possibility
her.
of deities just chilling, and we know the possibilities of avatars just chilling. So that is very possible.
I like the idea of like a god just being like trying to bum a ride. Like, hey, does anyone have some extra mana? I just think mistakes were made. Got some extra magic items.
It was
need
like
to
I
use
put the
those."
stick in there. It's like my Uber's here.
Finally takes the stick, just warps out, no questions answered.
Little goblin appears.
Yeah,
Is your name Posey?
I mean, honestly, I was thinking of it's like, hi, I wonder if I'll have to fight that.
Oh, I mean that's definitely a worry too. Is if this was, you know, an X avatar or is an avatar, they now know that we are in some vein looking for them. You know, they know that somebody's looking at them, right? And we're gonna need to confront them at some point. So it could very well end up in a fight if they are unwilling, you know, or if it is something like that.
And also, I mean, if he's corrupting these points that seem to be power for the avatars, who's to say he's not also just trying to corrupt avatars?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always think it more of a Captain Planet kind of thing. Like, I've got the light, and we got the
With our
powers combined, we will summon one deity to rule them all.
Whoops,
And
it was
she's green,
Vecna.
too.
Oh, whoops. About that.
Did you describe
Oh,
the color of this person's eyes
We lost you. What'd you say?
we lost you
by
for a
any
sec.
chance? But,
Repeat that last one.
did you describe this person's eyes when they opened? What color
Did I describe the eyes?
No,
I
you
believe
didn't.
so.
I don't
thought they
think
were
Short-
I did the eyes. No.
Short green
Okay.
hair with pointy ears. Medium
Yep.
stature, no eyes. So we will see.
Okay.
The
That's all I wanted to know.
eyes.
Yeah.
It's like what color the eyes were.
How many eyes were there? There weren't like 9, right?
That's also a very good question.
Stop.
You know I can't do that, Lee.
It's Rich's job to keep me honest, man. I swear to God.
Well, on that note, then, I think we've pretty much covered everything from landing in Kabora to going all the way back to Boulder Keep and Posey's family and the doppelgangers. So, you want to close it out, Lee?
Yeah.
You do your thing. I believe in you. You're the commentator here, so you know.
Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. I hope you had a good time.
Such enthusiasm.
Remember to always wash your hands and be a good person. And if you see Brandon on
Why are we
street-
still recording?